All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Captain Cody Davis here with you guys again for another one. And it's been an event trying to film this little video again, being that I'm filming it outside. You guys know how my luck goes trying to film outside. I got all the way through this thing pretty much twice, had great lighting standing out by the pond, and the wind blew my tripod over both times, disconnected my mics. It's always an event if I try to do anything outside. It's unreal. But either way, we're sitting here at the picnic table and trying to knock this thing out. Unfortunately, I'm in the shade, so I'm freezing because what you're looking at here behind me, this clear bluebird sky, high pressure, and you guys heard me talking about the wind, windy day, this is our first real cold front of the year, which is crazy to say because we're entering, we're like 4 days out from Thanksgiving. All right. So all of you that have been listening to my reports, booking trips with me, just hearing me talk about the past tournaments and things, I've been talking about how tough the fishing has been out here on the lake. And this is a big reason for it because we haven't had a severe front to essentially put the fish where they typically are this time of year. And more importantly than that is it's been unseasonably warm and our fish have really just held that what is summertime pattern out until probably realistically until today. The fish have been relating more to the outside, schooling, things like that. And the wind has not let up since the hurricanes went through. You guys have been hearing us complain about that, which means you can't fish where the majority of the fish are on the lake, being because it's either way too rough or if it is calm out there, it hasn't laid down enough to clean the water up. So that's what we've been dealing with. But I think this front is going to really kickstart things and start pushing these fish back into these, protected bays, spawning areas, and just putting the fish in the back, as we like to say. But we'll see. Last night it dropped down here on the south end of the lake, I believe, into the very low 50s. And I think tonight it's going to be in the mid 40s, which if you're watching this from anywhere else in the country, that might not sound like hardly anything, but down here where we're at in our region of the country, this pond behind me might as well be frozen and there might as well be snow falling because that's how these fish react. But although you guys have been hearing us wanting a cold front, there's no denying that the day of and 2 to 3 days following a cold front are your toughest fishing conditions down here on Lake Okeechobee. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably just throughout the state of Florida in general. Our Florida bass do not like cold weather. They don't like change. And especially they don't like these conditions. Windy, out of the north, northwest, northeast, any of those. High pressure, no clouds, a severe drop or sharp drop in water temperature and air temperature. All those things make it very tough. But one thing that it does do is it does set up greatly to take advantage of one bite, which is punching, which is what Lake Okeechobee used to be known for. Just due to the spraying of aquatic vegetation and the high water of us losing a lot of our grass, it's a bite that I always tell people, you can't go out and win an event strictly punching. It's great to catch a kicker or two or even three sometimes, but I don't think you're going to catch a 30-pound bag out here on the lake anymore, just leaving this punching setup in your hand. But if there was a condition or there was a day where that could happen, it's a day like today. I've been getting a lot of questions regarding what I'm punching and what baits, rods, reels, line, which is crazy because I feel like I've done a lot of videos on this in the past, but maybe people don't scroll back on the channel, which is fine. So I'm going to talk about it again. So if you guys have heard these videos before, you can click off, but I'm going to do another one. And I apologize in advance for the camera shaking. I'm actually filming this on my phone, and it's just catching a lot of wind and shaking. So either way, here we go. This is the rod, reel, whole setup that I have been punching here on the lake really for the last 3 months. You guys hear me talk about, that I'm not a big fan of punching mats in the summertime. I really don't typically do it, but because we had such a high lake level this time, or this summer, late summer, it was a technique that was playing, being that there was 3 feet of water underneath these mats. It gave these fish a lot of room to move around, and they were taken to them. Now, with these cold weather snaps happening, I think a lot more fish are going to suck up under these mats for shelter, for warmth, and just tuck up in there. So I think this would be a great day to be out using this. But I'm not going to lie, I am happy that I am here at home, going to be doing some yard work today and not getting blown around the Big O. But either way, I guess we'll just kind of dive into the whole thing. Line. I get asked a lot about what line I'm flipping for this. So we'll kind of go into this real quick. This is Sufix 832 65-pound braid. Now, for a while, I was using this braid strictly for flipping mats. Now, over the last year and a half, I've really used it for any of my braid applications, whether it's throwing a spook. Spook, I'll use 40-pound. But everything else, frog, swim jig, you name it, I've been using the same exact line. But I was talking to Brandon McMillan the other day, and I think I'm going to go back to like a 4 or a 6 carrier braid as opposed to an 8. This is an 8 carrier braid. And the reason for that is the smaller, or the 4 carrier, the 6 carrier braids, they're a lot more coarse. Okay, so they're not as smooth going through your guides. They do make kind of a seesawing sound, things like that. But what they offer is a more of like a weed whacker like action, like a cutting action, getting through grass. So if you make a long cast throwing a swim jig, if you're flipping buggy whips, sparse reeds, when you set the hook, that fish pulling and you pulling against the fish will actually cut more of that emergent vegetation, which is in turn going to help your landing ratio. Whereas the 8 carrier is a lot smoother going through the guides, so it doesn't have that severe cutting action, okay? So you might ask, why are you flipping mats with it then? Well, because it's smoother, it's a lot quieter going through that mat. If you flip it into some pennyworts and things, you don't get that sawing sound as the bait sinks. Also, it being smoother, it's going to allow your bait to sink through the cover a lot easier. So you're going to get a lot more, you're going to be more efficient when flipping this braid. This wind is unreal blowing this thing. And it's blown over 3 times already. If it blows over now, I quit. So I've been using this and I've had great success. I've had great success in the reeds and things, but I did have a few lost fish this summer that bogged me down in the reeds that I think if I was flipping a coarser braid, maybe I would have got to the boat. And if you're flipping sparse cover, you don't run into the problem of you yo-yoing the bait through something, getting that seesawing sound. So I might play around with that. We'll see. But as for flipping mats, you want to use an 8 carrier braid just for the noise and just the smoothness of it going through. Sufix 832 is a great one. Gamma makes an awesome one. Daiwa Samurai braid makes one. Steve over at Bruiser Baits, Bass Addiction Bruiser Baits, he's making that goat rope 8 carrier stuff. I've been flipping. That stuff works great too. Very smooth, very quiet. There's a bunch of them on the market. But I flip 65 pound. There's a lot of people that flip 80. There's a lot of people that flip 50. Flip what works for you. So I got Sufix 832 on here. This is my tried and true. I haven't switched it. So a couple things. One, we're going to talk about something simple here, this bobber stop. Back in the day, I used to see it on Mikey Ball's videos. He would talk about using 2 bobber stops to hold this thing down. I used to do that, and the reason they used to use 2 is in case one burnt off, you still had one there. And I feel like also it just kept your weight a little bit more pegged. I got away from that and went back to 1 because I kind of want that weight to slide away from the hook when I hook a big fish in a mat. He comes up wallowing. He can't use that 1.5 ounce weight as leverage to throw the hook. If that weight only slides up about this far, that thing's bebopping around. It's going to pop that hook out of that fish's mouth. So I did go to 1. A little tip I'll give you guys. Leave a little 2-inch or 1-inch gap from your weight. Because what this does is if you land it on a mat, it gives that weight a little bit of room if you're trying to kind of hop it to get it to fall through the mat. It gives it a little bit more space to get its momentum falling through, and then that in turn will pull your bait through the mat. All right, so any of you that are new to flipping mats and you're just trying to get into it, that is going to help you. It would amaze you how these little tiny differences make a huge difference in the grand scheme of things when it comes to this technique. For the most part out here, I just use an 1.5 ounce tungsten. This one's an ARC 1.5 ounce tungsten. There's a bunch of good ones out there. It don't matter. I don't flip one with an insert. I just don't. But an 1.5 ounce is my tried and true. I do everything in my power possible to not have to flip a 2-ounce weight. I feel like your hookup ratio and your landing ratio drops 50%. So an 1.5 ounce works good for me. And utilizing all these little detailed deals here, it gets through most of the things that I want to get through. So 1.5 ounces is your deal. But But if you're flipping mats like we have been lately, like that aren't really mats, they're more just junk blown in deals like cut off cattails and round reeds, Kissimmee grass, due to the hurricanes that have ripped that up and have blown them up on the hard lines. You can get through a lot of that stuff with a 1 1/4 or even a 1 ounce if the wind's not blowing. And then the smaller the weight is on the front, the more your landing ratio is going to go up. But keep in mind, you don't want it to where it's light enough where if you make 10 flips, only 4 of them go through. You're not being efficient. So you want it to go through with ease. So do not be afraid of the heavy weight. I get so many people that say, I can't believe I'm flipping an 1.5 ounce weight. I tell people all the time, the amount of 12-inch bass you're going to catch flipping this big weight will blow your mind. All right. Next is the hook. Got the Strike King Hack Attack 5/0 flipping hook. All right. I don't know if that's in focus there. I'm going to give you guys a little tip. If you want something a little smaller that's going to flow through the mats easier, but you still have a good hookup ratio, go to a 4/0. Kelly flips a 4/0. I know most people flip a 4/0 with this technique. I just love this hook. I have great, a great turnout with it, results with it. So I just stick with the 5. But there are times where Kelly can get through some thicker stuff with the 4, just because it's more compact. But I like the 5. Don't open it up. You'll never flex it out. It's a gaff of a hook. I use this for flipping reeds, flipping anything. This is my go-to flipping hook. Next is your bait. I don't think bait is that really matters all that much. You can use, the sweet beaver, you can use a D-bomb, but this time of year when we're dealing with these conditions, I do like to kind of shrink it down a little bit to a smaller bait, kind of a do-nothing bait when these fish are lethargic. This is the old tried and true. This is the revamped Gambler Why Not. It's essentially a do-nothing bait, all right? But you can see that slim profile there. It doesn't have any kickers or really any crazy appendages, but they eat it. I had a burner crawl with me out there by the pond, but when the camera blew over, I left it out there. A Gambler burner crawl. Again, it's a bait that's going to get bit, and it's going to go through the mats with ease, which is a big deal, especially when you're talking about super windy days like this. An ugly otter, a Gambler crawdaddy. Then, like I said, you can go to the beaver. There's so many baits out there you can use. Use whatever you have confidence in. But this guy is really hard to beat this time of year, really from now until really ever. But February, March, they love this thing. And then you got the old tried and true BB Cricket. That has caught more 10-pound fish than like anything. And it's so small, it's going to go through everything you try to flip it to. It's just a little too small for me. I just don't use it. There's a lot of guys that have won a ton of money on it, but I stick with the Why Not or the burner crawl myself. All right. So I got that. I've got this is an 8-to-1 reel. You guys know I talk about it all the time. I really wish it was a 7. I like a 7-speed reel. It's fast enough where I can get it to the boat quick and make another flip, but I've got the power and the torque to turn the handle when those fish are in the mats. But this one's working good. Get a reel that you can palm easily, that's very comfortable in your hand, because this technique will fatigue you unlike any other technique out there. You think throwing a 6XD out on a long cast, throughout the course of a day is tiring. Try flipping this 1.5 ounce weight for 4 hours. You'll feel it in your shoulders after the first 10 minutes. All right. Rod. Here's the deal. This is a 7.9 Senko Sticks. He doesn't even have a name for this. This is when Alex first went into business, and he built me this years ago. This thing's 6 years old, 7 years old. I don't know. It's tried and true. It's lasted forever. I am going to be switching what rod I'm flipping mats with, because his production line of rods is getting ready to come out here in a month or so. And he made a 7-Eleven punching stick that I got to play with a little bit. He used it, and he says it's the best punching rod he's ever designed, ever made. It's going to be $270. Made in the USA, all quality components, Fuji guides, Fuji reels. I mean, it's going to be the deal. And it's got the perfect action. It's a 7-Eleven. The other thing I'm excited about, and we'll see exactly how it plays out when I get to experiment with it more. We'll definitely do a full-length video on it when I finally get my hands on it. It's rated from a 3/4 to 1.5 ounces or a 2 ounce. So it could be one of those deals where it's just your standard flipping stick and you can use it for all of your flipping needs out here on Okeechobee, but we'll see. So I'm really looking forward to that. If you guys want to get your hands on a USA made, just awesome, built right flipping rod, keep your eyes out for that. It's going to be called the Expansion Series. But either way, this is what I'm using right now. This is a 7.9. I love this thing. And the reason that it's a good rod for this technique is a lot of people think you're flipping an 1.5 ounce weight, you want a broomstick of a rod. That's the last thing you want for this. You want a rod with a good parabolic bend, but it also has a really good tip. And the reason you want that is, you're not going to be able to see this in frame, but when you make that flip into that mat, 99% of your bites, he's already got it. That initial drop that's the presentation. Everyone makes mistakes of following the bait down, trying to feel the bite. You know, they concentrate too much on the hop. You're going to get 1 bite out of 100 flips doing that. 90% of your bites, you flip it to the mat, let it free spool down. You want absolutely, you can see my line blowing in the wind. You want absolutely no tension on that line. You want it to free fall down. That's when he's going to get it. Which in turn means you're either going to feel the tick or you don't. And when you reel down, you want it to be one motion. A lot of times I tell people, you want that softer tipped rod. So when you lift, always anticipate there's a fish on there. When you go to work the bait, even if you don't feel the bite, let it fall and lift slow. Lift high and slow. And if you feel something on there, he's got it. Don't drop the rod and snatch. You just want it to be one motion. So I'll flip the bait like this, reel down, and you can see I'm in position to pull back. If I lift and it's heavy, I'm coming back. Just make it one clean, sweeping motion. You don't want to drop slack and slam these fish because of that big weight. That big weight is you'll run the risk of it blowing their mouth open, and they'll never get the hook, which is another reason why I like that little bit bigger hook. Flip it in there. Again, I'll kind of show you with a one slack in the line. Reel down, lift, it's heavy. You just keep coming back. Keep the rod up and just turn the handle. That parabolic bend is also going to act as like a shock absorber from keeping that line tight from that 1.5 ounce weight bouncing around. It keeps that hook pegged, and it's going to fight the fish for you. If that fish is digging, it's going to load, right? And you just keep your tension on that reel and turn the handle and get that fish to the boat. If your partner's not ready for the net, do not wait for the net with this technique. Again, you've probably ripped a hole in the fish's mouth. You got a big weight on there bouncing around. You don't want to hold that fish in the water letting them head shake. You're fishing 65-pound braid. You've got a quality flipping rod. I don't care if it's 9 pounds. If he's to the boat and your partner does not have a net or you're fishing by yourself, boat flip him. Dropping an inch of slack in this line is what's going to make you lose that fish. But that's it. You can flip anything on the lake right now. Tussock mats, pennyworts, anything that you see that's, I would say, is green, but they're holding in a lot of dead stuff too. A lot of times the dead cover, the dead reeds and things, they hold heat better. They're absorbing that heat. They're darker. The sun's hitting them. They're dead, so the heat's radiating through. And a lot of times these fish, if this is the mat, they will sit just like this. They're putting their backs to it like a heating pad. So be paying attention, because a lot of your bites are going to come the second that thing clears the mat. Don't rush it. Again, reel down. You want to detect the bite quick. That way, if the fish is moving out of the mat, your line's not bogging down in the mat. But if you detect the bite, reel down, don't swing, lift. Make sure you start loading that rod before you set the hook. And that's also why a little bit longer rod is your friend in this technique. The longer the rod, when you sweep, the more line you're picking up, driving that hook home. And if the fish is moving, it's going to make up that distance for you. But that's it. That's my quick tutorial. Get out there and do it. I tell people with this technique, if you want to learn it, get out on a day and just bring 2 rods rigged like this one. All right. And just make yourself do it. Do yourself a favor. Go to a body of water where you're going to get bit. All right. And also pick the right day. Today is the day to go do this. Clear bluebird skies, high sun, and fish are going to want to get underneath something. They don't have eyelids. It's cold. They want to hunker down. Find a line, find isolated stuff, whatever it might be, and just go dob a big weight in it. and you're going to get bit and you have a chance of catching a true giant. So let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer any you got. I appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys on the next one.